President Biden and his team are getting ready to conduct some of the highest stakes job interviews on the planet. They'll be spending the next few weeks interviewing possible replacements for Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer. And the latest development, the White House has officially named its first possible choice, Judge J. Michelle Childs, a White House spokesperson confirming last night, making the South Carolina judge the first person that the White House has publicly identified as a possible nominee. President Biden has said he'll name that nominee, who will be a black woman, by the end of February. Childs is a U.S. District Court judge recently nominated by the president for a seat on the D.C. Circuit, but her confirmation hearing will be postponed while she's under consideration for the Supreme Court. That's why we got the announcement from a White House spokesperson. She's also the known favorite of key Biden ally, House Majority Whip James Clyburn. The rest of the short list includes federal appeals judge Ketanji Brown Jackson and California Supreme Court Justice Leandra Kruger. But we're told the president is considering more than 3 potential nominees. Let's bring in our panel right now. Kevin Russell is a former law clerk for Justice Breyer, and Emily Tisch Sussman is a Democratic strategist and host of the podcast Pivot. Good morning to both of you, and thanks for being with us. And Kevin, I want to start with you because you're very familiar with Justice Breyer, the way he does things and how he holds the court in such high regard. So when you hear the names of his possible replacement, what's your reaction and your hopes in terms of these women carrying on his legacy?
I think any of them would be a terrific choice. They're all highly qualified, very smart people who do a great job. In terms of replacing Justice Breyer, I think the critical role that he has played on the court in recent years is as a compromiser, somebody who's seeking middle ground on hard cases that can bring people from both the left and the right wings of the court together to decide cases in a way that everybody can live with, and that does not make the court seem so overtly partisan in a way that undermines its legitimacy in the eyes of the country.
Emily, when we talk about getting this confirmation through, there is politics involved, and we know that Chuck Schumer wants to get this done quickly. Senator Sinema says she wants a qualified candidate who believes in an independent judiciary. Senator Manchin says he's open to a nominee with more liberal views than his. And we know that Manchin and Sinema have voted for every one of Biden's judicial nominees, so do you expect them to do the same here? And is there a risk that Democrats run by moving quickly? Because we know Manchin didn't like that with Justice Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation.
It does feel like quick is the way to go in this case, getting it done quickly, both because, one, the Biden administration really is looking for a lot of wins, so that would be one way to do it. We know that the holdup to all of the big pieces of legislation so far have been Sinema and Manchin. The fact that they're signaling they're on board is great. They had not previously, in big pieces of legislation, really been willing to show their hands and show what they're willing to compromise on. So the fact that both Manchin and Sinema are signaling they'll be on board with that, and they have a good track record of confirming justices, that is great news. This is actually a place the Biden administration and the Senate should get a lot of credit, that they have been confirming justices at a pretty good click, at a very good rate, getting them confirmed through, and getting justices with a good diversity of experience through. This is something that has been incredibly important to President Biden, to make sure that there has been not just diversity in, it's been over 70% women that they've confirmed, it's been majority people of color that they've confirmed in justices, but the fact that they have diversity of experience in being public defenders, something that Biden was. It's diversity of experience in the fact that they've gone to public universities, something that's been very important to Biden to get a diversity of experience in the court in general. And so I expect to see that in the Supreme Court nominee as well.
Kevin, the 2022 midterms are now the 4th election in a row to essentially be upended by a change on the Supreme Court. And we've heard several of the justices speak up about how politicized the court has become in the eyes of many. So what's your take on the court being tied with elections over the last decade, something that you say Justice Breyer stood really firmly against?
It's an unfortunate occurrence, an unfortunate coincidence that the timing has been such that it creates such political momentum in the elections to talk about the court as a political institution. It's something, as you mentioned, Justice Breyer very much resists. He does not want the country to think of the justices as junior varsity politicians, is a phrase he has used in the past. He thinks that they check their political robes at the door when they come into the court, and he doesn't think that the court can play its crucial role as the arbiter of disputes between Congress and the president, or between the federal government and the states, as effectively if people have the impression that they are just politicians like everybody else in the government. And so it's deeply unsettling to him. I suspect that the timing worked out, that he was going to end up retiring in time to make this another political football.
Emily, you did mention that Democrats are looking for this as a win, against what Kevin just said about it being a political football. And I got to be quick with you on this, but do you think it'll really make that much of a difference with the midterms still pretty far away?
It's not going to change the balance of the court. The court is still moving in a conservative direction with a 6-3 ideology. What will change is that Republicans have traditionally motivated their voters on confirming justices. Supreme Court in particular has been a big motivating factor for Republican politicians and Republican voters. Democrats have not been able to motivate their voters in that same way. So I think being able to show that the makeup of the court does reflect the American public, I think can be a political factor. I will just say that I worked on Merrick Garland's non-confirmation campaign, and I would say that was the true politicization of Supreme Court confirmations, because everything became, quote, in an election year.
Ah, very interesting. All right, Kevin, I've got about 30 seconds. Any last words from you?
Well, I do think, one of the things that Justice Breyer is going to leave behind is a legacy not only of this insistence on the court as a non-political institution, but as somebody who really advocated for the benefits of civility among people who disagree with each other deeply. The Supreme Court is one of the last institutions of our government in which people who deeply disagree about things treat each other civilly, and that's something that he was well known for on the court and could be an example for elsewhere in our government and in our society.
Yeah, we could really use that everywhere, couldn't we? All right, Kevin Russell, Emily Tisch Sussman, thank you both for your time.